What's good, everybody? This is All Things Entertaining here, bringing you the brand new video. And today, the OCG just dropped their Forbidden and Limited list, and there's quite a few things that have changed about this list, and some pretty interesting things. This is the exact reaction that I had when I first saw this list. So let's just go over the list right now. So for newly Forbidden, True King of Oil Calamities and Mystic Mine. Newly limited cards, we have psy-frame Gear Gamma and Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder. Newly semi-limited Soul Eating Oviraptor, Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon, Pot of Desires, and Crossout Designator. And newly unlimited cards, we have Stanger Nessie, Salaman Great Circle, Mind Control, and Pendulum Call. So, there's a lot to discuss and a lot to go over with this list. Some of the most incredible things that I've ever seen in this list so far is probably just the fact that they put Cypher Gear Gamma to 1. Effectively, they might as well have just put this card to 0 because I don't think any player is going to play this card at 1. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's worth it. I think the 1-to-1 ratio of Brick versus Hand Trap is way too high now. You might as well just put this in your back burner and wait for it to come off the list. Pot of Desires is interesting. This card is not... I don't know why Konami has a problem with consistency cards, but they really do, even though they put Upstart... They left Upstart to 3. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Crossout Designator. This card is played in every single deck at 2 or 3 copies, so this definitely makes sense. They're just trying to tell people, hey, play something else, play different cards. This card is just as prolific as Max C or Called by the Grave at 2 over there in the OCG. The bans are kind of interesting. They're going where we are afraid to go, which is just to ban Mystic Mine outright. They put it to 1 first, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but then it started creeping back up in the OCG, and this is where it's at now. Personally, I'm totally for Mystic Mine being banned one way or another. I don't think this card should be around. It seems like it's a super degenerate, unhealthy card for the game. It limits so much card design. It limits so much viability for other decks to play the game. It inherently snuffs out rogue decks, and it's really bad for decks that aren't rogue decks that are really just tier 3 or 4 decks. It's just a bad time all around. It just limits other people playing the game. It's just not very fun and a very good deck at all, or card at all. Shrinking Oil Calamities, we already had this card banned. This card is absolutely absurd, so there's no surprise here. I'm not sure about this Arsenal, this Zeus hit. To be perfectly honest with you, I think this card is probably going to still see a lot of play. I think most people were playing this at 1 regardless anyway, so yeah. Some of the most interesting... Another interesting thing here is Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Now, here's a hot take. I don't think this card can come back to 2 or 3 in the TCG. With the hits that Dragon Link still has at the moment, and there still being a very prolific deck, feeling that fire is just something that I'm not really ready to tackle at the moment. The deck is still very strong. It's not as nearly as strong as it used to be, but the deck is still topping events here and there. It's still performing quite well at most people's locals, and I think putting this card to 2 or 3 would just fan that flame a bit and just make it a little too crazy. Still eating Oviraptor. I think dinosaurs are relatively are a pretty fair deck for what they are. So yeah, this just makes sense. This makes sense. Danger Nessie is actually interesting for a couple of reasons. One, we have this card at 1, so we really don't want this card back at 3. I think it would just add way too much consistency to the game, and it's a free body, and it searches cards, which is pretty good. Also, this card in the OCG is particularly scary because they have number 47 Tomahawk, which is a rank 7 that summons 4 tokens when you detach a material from it. So I'm not sure what they're going for here, but this card seems like it's a little too scary for me to consider to be safe at 3. Salaman Great Circle, you guys know that I'm a very avid Salad player. I have the deck sitting right next to me right now, and I would kill for Circle to be at 2 at least. But I just want this card back to 2 or 3. I think this is fine. I think leaving Gazelle at 1 and having this card at 3 is totally fine. It makes the deck perfectly playable, and overall the deck is just got a little bit stronger. Pendulum Call, I actually forgot they had this at 2. I thought this was already at 3 copies per deck, but I guess not. Definitely good on them to keep slowly releasing Pendulum. Still really afraid of that deck, but I understand why. They have Astrograph still at 1. They have Electromite still. So I'm pretty sure if those 2 cards were banned or not a factor, this card would definitely be at 3 at for sure. And Mind Control. We already experimented with this card being at 3, and it did 2 things. One, it forced your opponent to negate the card, because if they didn't negate the card, surely that you were going to do something with their card, and it could have actually ended up them losing the game. And 2, it was just a nice utility card for a lot of decks like Sky Striker or Salamangreat to just use and just play around with. And but yeah, it hasn't seen too much play in the OCG as far as it being at 2 goes. I haven't really seen very many lists playing this card in the main deck. It's been side decked a few times, but I can't really recall very many lists playing this at 3 or playing this in the main deck at 2, unless it's like maybe a Sky Striker list trying to be fancy. But overall, I think this card probably is safe in the OCG to come back. Whether it's safe for the TCG to have this card at multiple copies, it's definitely not up for debate. This card is definitely way too strong for the TCG to have at 3. They have Maxi. They have other cards that we do not, and Mind Control, it seems like it's an afterthought for them. But we would definitely play this card at more than 2 copies for sure, at least in the side deck. We would definitely consider this in the side deck, and maybe even main deck this card. Mind Control is just overall just super good. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, we get our ban list relatively soon. We should get it. We should get an announcement no sooner than October 1st, and we should definitely get it. We should definitely get a ban list within the first 2 weeks of October, if not a little bit sooner. But yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. It's more of a breakdown and analysis over what the OCG is currently doing. Best decks are still Virtual World, Drytron, Eldritch, whatever's been topping over there. OCG is kind of crazy with whatever they're topping with. They play a lot of crazy decks, but the format over there is relatively unchanged as far as best deck is concerned. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. This has been All Things Entertaining, signing out.